What if I told you that the worst trader in the room might actually be the closest to breakthrough? Picture this. You're staring at your screen, palms sweating, watching your position move against you for the 100th time. Your inner voice whispers, just one more trade, just one more chance. But what if that voice, the one you trust most, is actually your greatest enemy? Here's a statistic that'll make you uncomfortable. 80% of day traders lose money consistently. 8 out of 10. But here's what's even more disturbing. It's not because they lack intelligence, education, or access to information. It's because they're fighting a war against their own psychology, and they don't even know it. As Warren Buffett once said, the stock market is designed to transfer money from the active to the patient. But what he didn't mention is that your own mind is designed to make you the active one, the impatient one, the loser. Welcome. Today we'll explore the brutal truth about what really controls your trades. Before we dive in, let me be crystal clear. What I'm about to share is not financial advice. This is a psychological experiment I conducted on myself, documenting my personal journey and discoveries. Your results will vary, your psychology is unique, and you should never risk money you can't afford to lose. Always do your own research and consider consulting with a financial advisor. Today, I'm going to share something that almost destroyed my trading career before it saved it. I call it the mirror method, and it's not for the faint of heart. Chapter 1. The Psychology Trap. Let me start with a confession that still makes me cringe. 3 years ago, I thought I had trading figured out. I had read every book, watched every YouTube video, even attended a $2,000 seminar in Chicago. I knew about support and resistance, moving averages, RSI, MACD, all the tools that supposedly separate professionals from amateurs. But there I was, 6 months later, staring at my account balance that had shrunk by 60%. 60%. I felt like a fraud, an imposter who had somehow tricked himself into believing he could beat the market. The real wake-up call came when I analyzed my trading journal. Remember, I was tracking everything like a good little student. But when I looked at the data, something horrifying emerged. Every single losing trade had one thing in common. I had felt absolutely certain it would work. Think about that. My confidence was inversely correlated with my success. The more sure I felt, the more money I lost. It was like discovering that my compass pointed south instead of north, and I had been wandering in circles for months. Psychologist Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize for his work on behavioral economics, identified something he called the confidence accuracy gap. He found that people are most confident when they should be least confident, and vice versa. As he put it, the confidence people have in their beliefs is not a measure of the quality of evidence, but of the coherence of the story the mind has managed to construct. That's when I realized I wasn't just fighting the market. I was fighting millions of years of evolution. Our brains evolved to make quick decisions in life or death situations. Run from the tiger, grab the fruit, fight the rival. But markets aren't jungles. They're complex adaptive systems that punish the very instincts that once kept us alive. When you see a stock breaking to new highs, your brain screams, chase it. Because for our ancestors, joining the herd meant safety. When you see your position turning red, your brain yells, get out. Because for our ancestors, cutting losses meant survival. But in trading, the herd is usually wrong, and small losses often turn into big gains if you just wait. Chapter 2. The Mirror Method Discovery. The idea for the mirror method came from the most unlikely source, my nephew's karate class. I was watching him practice, and his instructor said something that stuck with me. To master your opponent, you must first master yourself. To master yourself, you must first see yourself clearly. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those words. How could I see myself clearly when I was trapped inside my own perspective? Then it hit me like a bolt of lightning. What if I could step outside myself? What if I could watch myself trade from a different angle? The next morning, I devised an experiment that sounded completely insane. For every trade I wanted to make, I would also track what the opposite trade would have done. Not execute it, just track it. If I wanted to buy, I'd note what would have happened if I sold. If I wanted to hold, I'd track what would have happened if I closed. The results were shocking. Over 2 weeks of tracking, my mirror trades, the ones I didn't take, outperformed my actual trades by 40%. 40%. It was as if there was another version of me, a successful trader, trapped in the mirror, doing everything right while I did everything wrong. George Soros, one of the greatest traders of all time, once said, "I'm only rich because I know when I'm wrong. But how do you know when you're wrong if you can't see your own blind spots?" That's where the mirror method comes in. It forces you to confront your shadow trader, the version of you that makes all the right decisions. But here's where it gets really interesting. I didn't just want to track the opposite trades. I wanted to understand why they worked. So I started digging deeper, analyzing not just what I did, but why I did it, and what the opposite choice revealed about my psychology. Chapter 3. The first mirror experiment. I'll never forget my first intentional mirror trade. It was a Tuesday morning, and Tesla was setting up for what looked like a perfect breakout. Every indicator aligned, volume was building, the pattern was textbook. My conviction was at 10 out of 10. I was ready to risk 2% of my account on this sure thing. But instead of buying, I sold short. My hands were literally shaking as I clicked the sell button. It felt like jumping off a cliff backwards. Every fiber of my being screamed that I was making a mistake. Within 30 minutes, Tesla had dropped 3%. My mirror trade was up $800. But I didn't feel victorious, I felt terrified. Because if my strongest conviction could be so completely wrong, what did that say about every trade I'd ever made? That's when I realized something profound. The mirror method isn't just about making opposite trades. It's about exposing the hidden patterns in your psychology. Every trade you want to make is a psychological fingerprint, revealing your biases, fears, and blind spots. I started documenting not just the trades, but my emotional state when I wanted to make them. Was I feeling greedy, fearful, overconfident, desperate? Each emotion seemed to correlate with different types of mistakes. When I felt greedy, I tended to chase momentum at exactly the wrong time. When I felt fearful, I would exit winners too early. When I felt overconfident, I would risk too much on sure things. When I felt desperate, I would take low-probability revenge trades. Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." I realized that everything I hated about losing trades could teach me about my own psychology, if I was brave enough to look in the mirror. The breakthrough came when I started treating my original impulses as data points rather than instructions. Instead of asking, "Should I take this trade?" I started asking, "Why do I want to take this trade? And what does that tell me about my current psychological state?" Chapter 4. The emotional roller coaster. Let me be brutally honest about what the mirror method does to your emotions. It's like performing surgery on yourself while you're awake. Every mirror trade that works feels like proof that you've been sabotaging yourself. Every mirror trade that fails feels like confirmation that you're completely lost. 3 weeks into the experiment, I had what I can only describe as an identity crisis. I was sitting in my home office at 2 a.m., staring at my trading results, and I literally didn't know who I was anymore. If my instincts were wrong, but my mirror trades weren't always right either, then what was I? Was I a good trader trapped by bad psychology, or a bad trader getting lucky with a psychological trick? My wife found me that night, head in my hands, and asked what was wrong. How do you explain to someone that you're questioning your entire sense of self because of some numbers on a screen? She probably thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. But that breakdown was necessary. Psychologists call it cognitive dissonance. The uncomfortable tension between what you believe and what you experience. When your beliefs and reality clash, something has to give. Either you deny reality, or you change your beliefs. I chose to change my beliefs. The most painful part was realizing how many opportunities one had missed by trusting my gut. Remember that Tesla trade I mentioned? Over the next month, I tracked 50 similar setups. In 34 cases, the mirror trade would have been more profitable than my natural instinct. 34 out of 50. That's not random chance. That's a systematic problem. Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest traders in history, said, "The market does not beat them. They beat themselves." But what he didn't explain is how to stop beating yourself. That's what the mirror method taught me, not just that I was self-destructive, but exactly how I was self-destructive. The emotional journey was like grief. First denial, these results are just luck. Then anger, this is stupid, I should trust my analysis. Then bargaining, maybe if I just improve my technical analysis. Then depression, I'll never be a successful trader. And finally, acceptance. My psychology is part of my trading system, and I need to manage it like any other risk. Chapter 5. The Pattern Recognition Breakthrough. After 2 months of mirror trading, something extraordinary happened. I started seeing patterns that were invisible before. Not patterns in the market, patterns in myself. I discovered that I had specific psychological triggers that predicted bad trades with scary accuracy. When I felt urgency, that I have to take this trade right now or I'll miss out, feeling the mirror trade was profitable 73% of the time. When I felt like I was getting back at the market for a previous loss, the mirror trade worked 81% of the time. But here's the really interesting part. I also identified psychological states where my original instincts were actually good. When I felt calm, patient, and slightly bored, my natural trades outperformed the mirror trades. When I had done thorough research and felt quietly confident, not excited confident but quietly confident, my instincts were usually right. The mirror method was teaching me to read my own psychological weather. Just like meteorologists track atmospheric conditions to predict storms, I was learning to track my emotional conditions to predict trading mistakes. I started keeping an emotional trading journal alongside my regular trading journal. Before each trade, I would rate my current emotional state from 1 to 10 on several dimensions. Excitement, fear, urgency, confidence, clarity, and patience. Then I would note whether those emotions suggested I should trust or mirror my instincts. The results were remarkable. Within 3 months, my win rate improved from 31% to 58%. More importantly, my average winner grew larger while my average loser became smaller. I wasn't just making better trade decisions. I was managing my risk better because I was managing my psychology better. Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates, once said, "He who lives by the crystal ball will eat shattered glass." But I learned that if you can't predict the market, you can at least predict yourself. And predicting yourself is often more valuable than predicting the market. Chapter 6. The Advanced Mirror Techniques. Once I mastered basic mirror trading, I developed more sophisticated techniques. The first was emotional position sizing. Instead of risking the same amount on every trade, I would adjust my position size based on my psychological state. When I felt highly emotional, either excited or fearful, I would cut my position size in half, regardless of how good the setup looked. When I felt calm and patient, I would use my normal position size. When I felt genuinely indifferent about a trade but my analysis suggested it was good, I would actually increase my position size slightly. This technique alone improved my results by 20%. It turns out that your emotional state is as important as your technical analysis when it comes to position sizing. The second technique was mirror exits. I would set 2 exit strategies for every trade, one based on my natural instinct and one based on the mirror method. Then I would track which exit strategy performed better over time. I discovered that I had a tendency to exit winners too early when I was feeling anxious and hold losers too long when I was feeling stubborn. By mirroring my exit instincts, I could often capture bigger winners and cut smaller losses. The third technique was social mirror trading. I started paying attention to what the trading community was excited about on social media, forums, and YouTube. When everyone was talking about the same trade, when the excitement was palpable, I would consider the mirror trade instead. This wasn't about being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. It was about recognizing that when everyone feels the same way about a trade, it's usually because we're all responding to the same psychological triggers. And those triggers are often wrong at extremes. The mirror method didn't make me a perfect trader. I still make mistakes, still feel the pull of greed and fear, still sometimes trade my psychology instead of my analysis. But it gave me something more valuable than perfection: self-awareness. I learned that trading isn't really about predicting the market. It's about predicting yourself. Because while the market is unpredictable, human psychology is remarkably consistent. Once you understand your own patterns, your own triggers, your own biases, you can start to trade with them instead of against them. The trader in the mirror isn't your enemy. He's your teacher. Every impulse you feel, every trade you want to make, every moment of emotional intensity is a lesson about your own psychology. The question is, are you brave enough to look in the mirror and learn from what you see? As the great trader Paul Tudor Jones once said, "The secret to being successful from a trading perspective is to have an indefatigable and an undying and unquenchable thirst for information and knowledge." But I would add this: the most important information isn't about the market. It's about yourself. And the mirror method is the best way I've found to discover that information. If you're ready to start your own mirror trading experiment, this method will challenge everything you think you know about trading. It will make you uncomfortable. It might even make you question who you are as a trader. But if you're brave enough to look in the mirror, really look, you might just discover that the successful trader you've been searching for has been there all along, waiting for you to stop getting in your own way. What patterns do you notice in your own trading psychology? Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this video helped you see yourself more clearly, consider subscribing for more deep dives into the hidden psychology of trading success. Remember, the market you think you're trading isn't the real market. The real market is the one inside your head. Master that market, and you'll be amazed at how much easier the external market becomes.